some wild medicinal teas from our region, and it's just going to be a really cool chat and demo. And I'll let you guys take it from here.
Hi everyone. I'm Francesca. I am the Indigenous Food Labs Market Herbal Specialist, and then this is my sister.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jessica. Don't work for natives, but both my sister and I have completed about 3 years of herbal internships with a local herbalist here in the Twin Cities. So, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's a couple of herbs that we're going to be focusing on today. It's going to be nettle, burdock root, and then mint. Since mints are very interchangeable, we're just going to be focusing on just mint in general. But they're very accessible, easy to find. They grow pretty much everywhere you can look. So that's why they would be the best way to show the different water decoctions that you can make to obtain the medicinal properties of those herbs.
One thing we wanted to show with this tea demonstration too is how water extraction, there's a lot of different herbal preparations that you can do, but water in particular helps to really pull all those nutritive properties out of plants. So things like your minerals, your vitamins, all of those antioxidants that you're not necessarily going to get when you're buying like a tincture or things like that. So really, really nice way to be able to nourish your body, get all of those plant benefits. So yeah. So we're going to start with probably the most familiar preparation of tea. So it's just going to be a simple herbal steep. Takes about 6 minutes, and we're going to show that with the mint that we brought today. Yeah. So we're using peppermint in this demonstration.
So for this, it can basically vary depending on how strong you would like your tea. We're going to use about a tablespoon here, but you can use anywhere from a teaspoon to a tablespoon, or even 2 if you prefer. We have our mint right here. So we're going to go ahead and switch this in here. Alright. And then as we're doing this, yeah, we just like to have it covered as well. So we want to go ahead and go over some of the properties of mint as well. It does contain volatile oils. One of those is like very helpful for calming your internal organs and helping with inflammation and things like that. So those we kind of want to keep in there, but we do want to have a shorter steep for those. That's why we have about 6 minutes. Any longer and the volatile oils can become a little bit more irritating. So we kind of keep it just for the 6 minutes for steep.
Yeah, and a good rule of thumb to identify like what herbs are aromatic that are going to contain more of those volatile oils are the ones that smell really good. So like roses, mints, other families of the mint is like lemon balm, spearmint, rosemary, basil, thyme, those types of things. So,
yeah, a lot of culinary herbs.
Yes, a lot of culinary herbs. Some other uses that we like to use for mints, mint family in particular, herbal steams are really nice. Cold and flu season are going to be coming up pretty soon. And so it's one of those things that help to kind of clear those mucosal pathways, clear those sinuses, help you breathe a little bit better. Everyone's familiar with like Vicks. You kind of put it on your chest, lets the menthol. So one of those volatile oil properties that you get from this particular family of plants. Another one is digestive support. Obviously, a nice, maybe after the fair today and you might eat too much, a nice like cup of mint tea just kind of helps to soothe your GI tract, help with the digestion. Yeah. Yeah, oh. Sorry. We have another one that we like to use too, particularly this one you can make a little bit of a stronger tea. It's really good for headaches. So steep the tea, you can make a little bit stronger, but it's nice to kind of dip a washcloth in there, lay it over your head. Aromatic properties, but also the anti-inflammatory properties is really good for tension headaches. And again, a lot of those like nervous system, anxiety type of issues that you might be facing. Really nice for kids as well. Nice gentle herb.
Can even be really soothing if you're having a lot of like arthritic pain, even if you're on having menstrual cramps. Having like a nice mint tea can really help calm down the inflammation that is kind of happening there in our internal organs, creating a lot of that spasming. So that's one thing that I definitely really recommend. I mean, I have used it as well, and it actually does have a lot of those calming and cooling sort of properties during that time as well. So, all right. And so our next herbal preparation we wanted to talk about was a decoction. So for decoctions, what we do, they're pretty much for more of like the woody, hardy herbs like you would have with like roots or barks or berries, because those can take a little bit more of a longer time to fully break down to receive all the medicinal properties that you want to obtain from those herbs. So for our demonstration today, we're going to go ahead and use burdock roots. For our decoction, we're going to start with cold water first, and then we're going to go ahead and just add the wait, so you can see. We're going to add the burdock root in here, and once it comes over here, we're going to have it up to a gentle boil, and then we're going to lower it to a simmer. And you're going to want to basically have that on there for about 20 minutes would be okay, but decoctions can go up to even 40 minutes. So it'll be really good way to extract the medicinal properties of burdock, which is another one that we do like for like digestion as well. It's helping to support like our healthy gut floras in our systems in eating that.
Yeah, it's one of those too where we have a little table over there with, we did bring some fresh plants so you can look at them, so you can kind of see what each of them look like. Everyone kind of knows what burdock looks like, right? It's like those little burrs that get stuck to you.
Yes.
They grow everywhere. They get stuck to your pets, dogs in particular. Kind of a nuisance. The cool thing about them is that it's one of those super nutrient dense vegetables. So the roots are used a lot in culinary preparations as well. You can use it like a regular root vegetable. A lot of healthy like antioxidants, magnesium, potassium. Tastes really good too. They use it a lot actually in like Japanese cuisine. And what's great about it is that it's so abundant. So it's one of those things that is really easy to identify, whether it's in your garden. It grows in my garden, drives my husband crazy. But it's something that's really like an unavailable food, which is awesome to be able to kind of identify like those wild foods if ever, you know, you're interested in, you know, foraging, and especially what's native to our state.
It does contain prebiotic inulin, which is one that can definitely help when taken over a long period of time, can help with nutrient absorption for your gut. So that's one of the ones where we do really feel it's very beneficial. Just like we said, like it's a good culinary root. Cook it as you would any other root vegetables you may come across. So you can even use like carrots, radishes, anything good. But that one is one that's pretty accessible and easy to saute, just like you would any root vegetable or carrots.
And inulin feeds your healthy gut bacteria too. So it's a good source of food for kind of building up your microbiome. Medicinal preparations that we usually do with burdock. This one particularly doesn't have a very aromatic, so we consider it more of a food type herb. So it's one that you can consume in larger quantities. We like to use it a lot in digestive bitters. It has a little bit of like a sweet bitter flavor, and what that does is it helps to stimulate your bile production as you're eating, which helps to aid in digestion. So kind of helps keep everything moving smoothly. Another fun thing about burdock is they have a really long taproot. Very similar to like dandelions. If you ever try to pull a dandelion out of your yard, the root's like this big, the plant's like this big. Burdock is probably that, but tenfold. Burdock roots are pretty huge.
Dig with a friend.
Yes, dig with a friend. Be careful.
Dig with a friend.
We like to dig them up in early spring or in the fall when all of that plant energy is still kind of in the roots to make bitters for digestion. But yeah, and it's interesting to kind of liken the way a herb looks and what affinity it has for the body in itself. So that deep taproot is very similar to kind of like your GI tract in your body.
Talk about spacious glands.
Yes, we can talk about spacious glands. Try not to get too nerdy. So, skin.
Yeah.
Sebaceous glands, basically your hair follicles, your skin. It basically helps to kind of lubricate, right? Produce oils and things like that. So burdock is really, really nice for the skin. Because of its anti-inflammatory properties, it helps to keep those glands clear and prevent it from getting blocked up. And a lot of the times when we have a more internal type of issues, a lot of it comes out in our skin. Yeah. So you think of things like acne, especially like in teenagers, things like eczema, psoriasis, those dry, scaly type of skin conditions. Burdock infused oil is really, really nice for helping to treat those issues. So in herbalism, we use burdock quite a bit in that way as well. So. Do you want to talk about anything else with burdock?
We'll check on it. I wonder with the sebaceous glands as well. It's one that is really connecting to like our circulatory system as well as the inflammation and our lymphatic system. So by adding it even just like in your diet or even like Jessica was saying in oil to like put over certain like skin irritations that are happening, that's one way that it does help support, because it basically is going to help to calm the skin, bring it back down to being neutral, and it has these sort of cooling properties that can help aid in those issues. So that was one of the ones that I do, even for me sometimes if I'm having a skin irritation or something going on, I'll like have a salve at home that we've made and I'll go ahead and use that, and that actually does help. So one thing that can be something people can try if they like. Yeah, I think that's what I have for burdock.
Great. Okay. So the last one we're going to talk about is something called stinging nettle. Again, this is probably something that you might find in your backyard, in fields. Not everyone's favorite because it hurts a little bit when you touch it.
She's immune.
Doesn't hurt so much anymore.
I know.
It's good pain.
It doesn't affect you.
Yes. So the sting actually comes from these little hairs that almost create like a histamine type of response on your skin, so you end up almost like getting like a little rash that can last a little while. So it's always nice to kind of harvest with gloves, or you're like me, just get in there and just get used to it.
Well, yeah, because that's one of the things too, is like that sting. Well, it does hurt. Like there has been more like studies going on to basically show that actually can help alleviate inflammation, but it basically kind of boosts your circulatory system by activating with that sting,
Especially those with like arthritis.
Yes.
Those kinds of pain conditions.
I haven't tried it yet, but I kind of want to for my own risks. But it's something where you do have the nettle sting. You can kind of like rub it on the affected area, and it'll have that sting, and that will it'll activate in the circulatory system, and the inflammation that is in there after that sting wears off, like it'll help to soothe and kind of calm it down. So it does help to bring like the blood and circulation to the area and move anything that may be stagnant or lingering there. So that's one thing that nettle also can help with.
Yes. It's also one of those food-like herbs, so it doesn't really have like a strong aromatic properties, but we use it very similar to like spinach. It's something that we don't eat raw just because of those stinging properties. what we do is like we either recommend drying it for like a tea. You can use like the dried herb in foods as well, or cooking it. But nettle is kind of like a nutritional powerhouse. It has 4 times higher vitamin C than like an orange. It has potassium, it has calcium. It's one of the plants that has one of the most bioavailable forms of non-heme iron. So really good if you're anemic. Have it saute it with some steak. Another, it has vitamins A. So one of those things that's really good, kind of like a multivitamin in an herb. Again, food herb, so it's really nice for kids. I make my kids nettle infusions all the time. I may actually make a really tasty lemonade with it. You guys like nettle infusions, right? Yeah. Throw it in baked goods, things like that. And one that's really available here in our state, which is kind of nice, right? It's like you have some plants that seem kind of invasive. You always are trying to get rid of them. It's like, well, maybe just eat them instead. Your body will appreciate it. Super nutritious, and you don't have to deal with them in your yard so much. Yeah. So we're gonna show an example of how to make an infusion. Yeah. Do you want to explain about the infusion?
Yeah. So for infusions, what we usually like to do is just have about like an ounce of herb per quart of water. So here we usually end up using just like a French press, but you can also just use like a mason jar or any other form that may have a lid, because you will want the lid to seal on it, just that way it can like fully extract and not evaporate as it's coming out.
Yeah. And because it's one of those food-like herbs, those tonic herbs, it's something that we like to kind of consume in larger amounts.
So go ahead and just pour it in like this, and then just leave the top on. And this can actually go ahead and sit about 4 to 6 hours or even overnight to infuse, and then we can just strain it in the morning. So that will allow the plant properties to really benefit from the water extraction, because with this you do want to just pour freshly boiled water over this for the steeping time. And one thing where I do really like the infusions as well is that it can aid with seasonal allergies because of the anti-inflammatory response of this as well. If you're taking it, daily infusions of nettle, it can actually benefit and help your body adapt like a month prior to spring. So if you take it about a month or so prior to spring, that it can help with your body's adaptability to seasonal allergies, which is another benefit that we can have from drinking nettle infusions.
Yeah.
Including all the vitamins and minerals that come with it as well.
Yes. It also has almost like an astringent property. Yes. So in herbalism, we kind of define that as like it kind of tightens and tones like lax tissues.
Yeah.
So one of the nice things that this does for seasonal allergies as well is that it helps to support those mucous membranes. So like your sinuses and things like that. So it helps to tonify, which is strengthen all of those. So it kind of helps you build that resilience before you're going into kind of that allergy season. Again, I use it for my son as well. He has allergic to cats. So whenever he wants to sleep over at a friend's house who has a cat, I give him nettle just so he can be supported and not have, weepy eyes and all of that, and actually have a good time and enjoy himself. So, yeah.
Nettle infusion is also really nice because of course nettle supports like your hair, your skin, your bones, even your teeth. And one of the ones where we make infusions where you can actually use it as a hair rinse for your hair if you want to stimulate hair growth. So it can help aid in that process as well. So it's one of the things where I've even used it, and I kind of noticed the more beneficial like hairs that were kind of coming through, and I was like, oh, this is like actually really nice and it's working. So that's another way to benefit from nettle infusions as well.
Yeah, again, all those vitamins and minerals. Yeah, really good for all kinds of things.
Okay.
I think our teeth.
Yeah.
also, does anybody have any questions? I know these are kind of the basic water extractions that we do before we strain our decoction. Does anybody have any questions about any particular herbs or about these particular herbs in general or anything? We'd like to nerd out a little bit. No. Okay. You guys are laughing at me.
No. Wanted to also represent, we did do our own nettle infusion overnight yesterday. So this is basically what that looks like. So it kind of just shows the comparison of all the medicinal properties that have been extracted. With here, it's pretty clear and it's kind of a darker color, but it's not necessarily really dark. So after about like an overnight steep, this is the color that you're going to want. So it's going to be very dark. You won't be able to see through it, but that's going to be a lot of the nutrition through the water extraction that we do here.
Okay.
And then,
let's see. So we have our decoction here. You can see what it looks like.
yeah, and for this, we definitely just want a mesh strainer and a heat-proof glass, just to be able to get that out of there.
Yeah, these are fun ways to kind of do herbalism at home. It's one of those things too that sometimes it seems a little bit intimidating, maybe a little bit scary, but no, not at all.
Yeah. Okay. This is very hot.
All right.
I will hold it up here.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like we chose these herbs today just because they're really easy that you might have in your garden that you can wild forage. What we're really passionate about too is, you know, no matter what our backgrounds are, all our ancestors, you know, this is what they did, right? They harvested, they foraged, they, you know, nature grew their food for them. They knew what to look for. So it's nice to kind of come back to our roots and kind of start building up that knowledge again, because it's really valuable, right?
Yeah.
That we have such nutritious food literally out our back door, you know, that we really can utilize.
So I was thinking even with nettle, the nettle stalks are also indigenously used to make rope or cordage. So there's a lot of other benefits with these plants that we're able to utilize as well, besides just being a food or even just being something you drink, which is all the medicinal properties as well, but there can also be helpful in other means too in daily life. But
so then again, you know, we have our little table over there. So we have like a little pamphlet just talking about the different preparations, like our steep, decoction, and an infusion, what the differences are. And then we also included a couple other herbs that you could use for each of these different water preparation methods. So yeah.
And it's like our guide just kind of shows like exactly like what we talked about and the steeping times and everything else too. So if anyone's interested or just wants something, an abbreviation of what we kind of talked about, it's going to be found over there at the table by Andy. That's
yeah. So we still have a couple minutes left, so we'll be here. So if you guys want to have any questions or anything like that, feel free to come up to us, ask. Yeah. We'd love to chat. Yes, that's actually a really good question. Springtime, usually. We want to get it before the seed heads form. Reason for that being is a lot of the times, you know, where the plant's energy is most abundant. So like, for example, roots, you know, we want to do it very early spring while it's still pretty cold outside, or late fall when all of that energy goes into the ground. Nutritional properties for nettle in particular, when we're getting those young nettle tops, so probably usually when they're about like this big. And what's nice about them is if you keep harvesting them at that size, they'll keep growing back up, and so you can just have a continual harvest all summer. So, yeah. That's a good question.
kind of similar to burdock root too, except that would be more of a fall harvest.
Yeah.
I think, So once all the energy is kind of going down into the roots, and then at that point you can go ahead and begin to harvest.
Yes.
for
Of course, you
burdock
could
roots.
use the young leaves for burdock too.
Yes.
Right? I think it was Linda Black Elk. She actually made
Yes.
indigenous dolmas
Yes.
with burdock leaves.
Yeah, which is
That's a
actually
fun one.
another
I
way
haven't
that
tried
would be
that
good. I know. I want to try that. Too.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Oh my god.